right, I think we're live here. So, what is going on, Predators? It's Travis here with Apex Predator Outdoors. Today, we are doing a live stream here. We got a special guest. We've got Trail Kreitzer from GoHunt, and we also got Dean here with us. We're going to be talking about gear. We're going to talk about some updates with the GoHunt app and see how everything's going on there, and just have a conversation with another great outdoorsman guy. Somebody we've always looked up to, and hopefully he can give us a lot of great information and help us grow as archers. So without further ado, Dean, I'll give a little introduction and we'll let Trail give his turn.
Well, this is Dean. Thanks a lot, guys, for joining us. We appreciate Trail taking some time out to come on and hopefully get some great information from him, learn a little bit more about GoHunt, about their maps, and just kind of pick his brain about how he attacks elk and antelope and packs and whatever questions you guys may have. So with that being said, Trail, again, thank you so much for taking some time out. Could you just give us a little quick background on GoHunt and what's your background for the people that may not know?
Sure. Yeah, so I'm originally born and raised in southern Utah. I still live here. I live about 45 minutes from the town I was born in. My dad was a park ranger, so he was a state park manager at a reservoir, and it was a tiny little town. I mean, I had one kid in my elementary class, so just me and one kid. So super rural environment. Grew up hunting and fishing right across the street from a reservoir. So like from an early age, I love the outdoors. So, and that's the way we were raised, luckily. So I live here in Cedar City. I guess my background, I went to school to be a wildlife biologist, and I worked for the Utah Game and Fish here for about 8 years as a habitat biologist. So I did that. I did some stints with the Forest Service seasonally when I was going to college, and it just kind of, like I said, it all kind of led to the fact that I wanted to be outdoors as much as I possibly could. And I love to hunt, and I used to freelance write. So I would write, articles, whether it was gear articles or, methods or, tips and tactics for GoHunt while I was working for the state. And kind of eventually just got to a point where they had a position that opened up. And so I kind of flowed the idea to my wife and kicked around the idea. And ultimately it was the opportunity to be more in the field in the fall hunting that led to me to making the switch and jumping over to GoHunt. So I switched over to GoHunt. I've been here about 5 years. So it's been good. Yeah, GoHunt. I mean, if you're familiar with GoHunt at all, I mean, we started out, we have a subscription service called GoHunt Insider, and we can dive into that, I'm sure. We've just recently moved into a mapping app. So we have our own mapping app and mapping platform on the site. If you're a GoHunt Insider, you already get that, but you can now purchase that as a separate purchase if you want. If you don't want to be a GoHunt Insider, you just want the maps portion, we call that GoHunt Explorer. And then we also have a gear shop. So this massive gear shop that we've been working and growing.
So you said you had you're working on updating the map this past week. Is what all new have they to that?
Yeah, so the mapping platform we've had available for maybe 6 months or so, and that was available if you were a GoHunt Insider. You had access to that. It's a web-based map, platform that you can use with your Insider account, or and you can download that to your phone and use that as a separate app, just like a GPS. So last week we launched a separate membership. So we've never offered any other membership other than GoHunt Insider. And now we offer, essentially 2 memberships. So the GoHunt Insider, which includes, the research platform, the draw odds, filtering, strategy articles, as well as the mapping platform. Or if you just want maps and you want that app on your phone, we have this platform called GoHunt Explorer, which is just simply the maps portion of that platform, and that's $50.
Nice. Go ahead, Travis.
I was going to say, so the Insider package, for those people who don't know, that's got basically a lot of data, if I'm correct, right? I'm still kind of getting used to GoHunt, and it's one of the things I've done really in-depth, like hour-long reviews of Hunt Stand, Onyx, Base Map, and that's like the next one everybody's recommending is GoHunt, and so I'm starting to dive into that. And so talk a little bit about some of that, if you will. Yeah,
so we started out in 2013, and Lorenzo, who's the owner at GoHunt, he went to school up to Montana, and he grew up in Nevada, And if you're familiar with Nevada at all, or even southern Utah for that matter, the opportunities to get permits are quite limited. You have to enter a lottery. There's a whole process that goes into it. So he goes to school to Montana, and he finds out that the process in Montana is quite a bit different than it is from Nevada, than it is from Utah, than it is from Arizona, and every state. So he's looking for a way to essentially quickly research hunting opportunities in various states, because he could kind of see the writing on the wall that if you want to hunt more often, you've got to have kind of a multi-state strategy. You got to be applying and playing the game essentially in every state. So he took a look at that, didn't see anybody out there that was providing anything like that online. And so, he got together with, Chris Porter, who's, now our CEO, but essentially they, worked together, they developed a team, and we built this thing called GoHunt Insider. So essentially what it is it's a Western research platform. So, we cover application strategy articles. So for example, so that's primarily what I do from, I would say December all the way through May, is I write these application strategy articles, which I go through with a fine tooth comb, and I break down, each individual state's draw system. And then, I'm going to find all these little, geeky pieces of information, like, up-to-date buck-to-doe ratios. And I'm going to comb through biologist job completion reports, and I'm going to pull in, populations and just all this, data that can really help people understand, like, what's the best use of their points in the West and their application in the West. So that's a big part of it. Another huge part of that GoHunt research platform, the Insider platform, is draw odds. If you're not familiar with the West, really the primary way you're going to get a permit is by drawing a permit in the state lottery. And a lot of them use point system, whether it's a preference point system or a bonus point system. But you really do have to understand how those systems work, and then understand the odds of drawing a permit. So we break down the draw odds. We cover every hunt in every Western state, so 13 states at this point. And we cover draw odds for antlered species. We cover draw odds for doe, cow elk, antlerless species as well. So that's another big part of what we do. And then kind of like our bread and butter that we're probably most well known is this thing called filtering 2.0. And essentially what it does is it allows you to pull up a state and a species, and then you can filter by the type of hunt you're looking for. So if you want to filter by things like trophy potential, you can do that. If you want to filter by harvest success, you can do that. If you want to filter by the percentage of public land, or even a series of dates that you have free to hunt, you can do that. And you can filter for the hunts that are applicable to you. So essentially what it's done is it's given people the ability to do a massive amount of research in a very short amount of time, whereas before, people like myself, I was pouring through each individual state's draw reports. I was pouring through their biologist reports. I was trying to find all this data, but now I've got everything in a really nice, concise, workable package.
That's awesome, because like you said, with the time thing, it's like, we're having to schedule, kind of as everyday guys that are just, we work a day job and we're trying to get out there. It's like we got so much that goes into that planning. It's like, we got to talk about gear, we got to talk about do those research ahead of time. And if you've already got a lot of that done for you, or at least get the first steps of that done for you, where I can't go out there and spend a week scouting and stuff like that. We live in Texas, and I can't go scouting for a week and then come back out there and spend a week and a half or something hunting. I need to make sure that when I get there, that like a lot of that work's done for me. That's really big.
Yeah, and really, I mean, what it's done is it's opened the door to opportunities you may not have known even existed, And if you want a chance to go hunting, there's definitely opportunities out there. It's so hard to do it on your own. Whereas if you got this platform with everything kind of built into it, and it's a really nice, concise, easy to use package, it'll open up opportunities that you probably didn't even know were out there for you.
Yeah, absolutely, man. So, Dean, do you have a question about GoHunt before we move on to something else?
Yeah, I think one of the couple of things I was thinking about was just kind of looking at hunting in general. When you get on your, on the e-scouting, what's your strategy as far as kind of finding those spots? How far in are you, thinking about hiking in? Do you do a base camp close, drop, and then hike in? And do you have a kind of in your head, I'm going to stay within this 2-mile radius or 5-mile
Mhm.
radius of wherever I drop before I go out?
Sure. Uh, I think it depends on, on the species. It depends on the time of the year. For example, if I'm doing an antelope hunt, the first thing I'm looking for when I'm e-scouting is water, because they're just so dependent on water, especially early in the season. So those are first and foremost the things that I'm cruising. I'm just looking at the landscape, looking for water sources. If I jump over to like an archery elk hunt, for example, the first thing I'm really looking at is I should say one of the first things I do for archery elk is I'll turn on a burn layer. I just want to look at the burn scars, because I've had so much success hunting, burn scars, because the regrowth, the regeneration there is just like ice cream, right, for elk. So I'm looking at those kinds of things. I'm looking at water. My style of hunting, the way that I like to hunt is I like to backpack hunt for archery elk, and I like to keep a mobile camp. So I don't often base camp. I'll live off my back, and I usually am in a different spot every single night. And I like to follow a herd. I like to be in the action every single day. At night when I go to bed, I want to be as close to that herd as I can be within reason, without bumping them. And then first thing in the morning, I want everything back on my back, and I want to be cruising and searching for those bugle and bulls as I go. So I don't worry too much, to be honest. I don't worry too much about, roadless areas, for example. I do look at them. I'll kind of head that direction if I think there's going to be some elk in there. But, I'm hunting from the get-go. As soon as I get out of my truck, I've got my pack on my back and everything I need to stay maybe 5 to 6 days. And I'm just going to go wherever I get into elk.
That's a great segue to one of the other questions we were talking about is, do you have an ideal pack weight that you're going in with, or what do you cut out? What are must haves? Like, do you have a kind of a strategy before you go in, how you approach that?
Yeah, so for like a typical archery elk hunt, let's say I've got an area picked out that I think is going to hold some elk in it. I think it's got some potential. It's got water. It's got, feed. It's got bedding, those big north-facing, slopes for bedding. It's an area that I think has got some potential. I'll typically load up for like 5 to 6 days of gear. So that's, 1 gallon Ziploc bags packed, with 1 day's worth of food. And then, my gear. So, I like to bivvy hunt. So I like a bivvy sack, and I like a sleeping bag and a sleeping pad. I'll take a tarp typically, and I'll pitch that only if it looks like I'm going to get some rain at night. Other than that, I'm just going to throw my bivvy out, throw my sleeping bag in it with a pad, and I'm just going to, hunker in and sleep under the stars. And that's the way I like to hunt. Keeps the weight down. I'm packing a small stove, for, dehydrated meals or freeze-dried meals. I'm packing not a lot of gear other than those kind of your basics, you know what I'm saying? And my kill kit.
Mm-hmm.
As far as clothing goes, I'm not taking extra pants or socks or underwear or anything like that, or shirts. I'm running what I've got on me. I'll typically have a mid layer in my pack, an insulation layer, and maybe a really lightweight, rain layer. And so when it comes to pack weight, I would say for 5 to 6 days, I'm right around that 45 to 50 pounds, with some water. Mm-hmm.
That's really good, actually, man, and kind of surprising. I thought it would have been more upwards, close to like 55, 60. That, like I say, I've done a lot of hiking in the backcountry, but I've never really done much, hunting. So it's like a different purpose there whenever you're packing that bag. And, you do a lot of gear reviews. And actually, I just rewatched a couple of your elk, backcountry elk gear dumps, and I was really fascinated by that. But one of the things I wanted to ask too is with your frame pack, I guess one of the things I'm curious about, because this is going to be my next big purchase, is buying a really solid frame pack. And I was going to see what you recommend, what size, what's really for the guy that's just trying this for the first time, what is important when you're looking at a nice frame pack for hiking your gear in?
Mm-hmm. So I would say size is definitely something worth considering, depending on what type of hunting you want to do. If you want to get into backpack hunting and you're looking at that 4 to maybe 6 day window of backpack hunting, living off your back, I think you got to look at something in that, 4,500 cubic inches to maybe 6,000, cubic inches. That's kind of the wheelhouse, if you will, and then beyond that, you probably want to look at, a pack that's comfortable. I don't know if you guys have the opportunity to visit, a shop and try on some different packs, but, if you find a pack that you like and that rides well with you, that's worth considering. I mean, if you can find that, a lot of people can't, unfortunately. I would look at things like the hip belt. Does it look like it's going to support and stay up on your waist? Is it comfortable? It's got good padding, shoulder straps, same kind of thing. For me, height of a frame is a big deal. I'm a little bit taller, so I'm 6'2". We got a long torso. So for me, I try to stay away from frames that are, 24, 25 inches. I want something that's 26 inches because it's going to give me a little bit added angle on my load lifter. So that's something worth considering. Some guys really like a pack that has a lot of pockets because they don't, they want organization to their pack and they don't want to have to carry like any extra pockets or pouches to store the rest of their gear in. So in that case, there are packs like the Mr. Ranch Beartooth that got some internal pockets to help you with your gear organization, so you don't have to add a bunch of extra pockets and things. Weight, so like bear pack weight is something worth considering. I'm kind of middle of the road guy. I don't want a really heavy pack, but I also don't really love the fit and the function of a super ultralight pack on my back when that thing's fully loaded. I kind of want something kind of middle of the road, that can support the weight, a lot of weight if I need to put it in it. So that's definitely worth considering, kind of bear pack weight. One thing I look for in a pack, and this is probably, I don't know if it's something that people think about, but if you kill an animal and you're going to haul an animal out, I really like a load shelf. So the shelf is going to sit between the bag and the frame so you can load meat or quarters in between those two. And for me, the position of that load shelf is really important. I want that load shelf kind of up off the base of my hip. So if I can, if you can kind of, picture if you got a bucket on your frame, you're going to load the weight of that meat in your pack. I want that weight up off my hip, maybe 4 to 5 inches. What that's going to do is it's going to secure that weight further up my back, and it's going to free up my hips when I'm walking when I've got like 100 or 80 pound pack on. So those are just some factors that I look for.
Yeah, that's good to know because I wouldn't have even thought about that because when that load shelf is really low, like I said, all that weight's going to be carried low as well. So if you can get that up like around the middle of your back or the small of your back, kind of up in that area, then it gives you a little more room to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Just kind of right there above your hips, like right there above the small of your back, and it really does make a difference. I've been doing like weighted pack hikes in the morning. And I've tried, a bunch of different packs, and I can tell you unequivocally, it makes a big difference on where that load sits, that heavy weight sits on your back.
Yeah, I think it's funny too. I just got a bigger pack myself, and now my concern is, am I going to fill it? And it's heavy to get in. And so I'll consider how much am I going to take in and not thinking it's a gun safe and go bigger. Go home because I'll pack way more than what I need.
That's definitely, it happens for people. They get a big pack and they think, oh, I've got extra room here. I'll just fill that up with some extra stuff, extra food, extra clothes. You can talk yourself into some comforts that you won't need, for sure.
Every ounce adds up, man.
Yeah, just in case weighs a lot,
Yeah, it does. I've got some of those every year. I try to come home at the end of a hunt, even if it's just a short hunt, 4 or 5 day hunt, and kind of evaluate, like, did I use this thing that I took with me? Is it an item that I really need? If it isn't, ditch it next time.
That's really good. One thing I was talking about with Dean too, it'd be interesting is something I've been looking into is trying to take like a bushcraft or like a backcountry, like a kind of a survival skills class. Cause I think like the more stuff that I could, or the less stuff I could take in with me. So like if I needed something to hammer tent stakes in the ground, or if I could even go without tent stakes and just kind of, forge some in the field, with some, some sticks or something like that, that'd be even less and less and less weight that I could take on. So that's something I'm probably going to be looking into and maybe posting some videos about that, because I think that'll be super helpful. Have you ever gone into any of that, gone that deep into it and figured that stuff out yet? Or
I haven't gone that deep, I would say. I still carry some stakes just because if it's pouring down rain and I just want to get my tarp up, I want to be able to pull out those stakes and do it. And I've had that happen a number of times where, I've just got caught in the storm and I need to throw that thing up as quick as possible. I do pack super ultra light stakes. So, I like these little MSR needle stakes, they're called. They also make some carbon fiber stakes that are great, super, super lightweight. So I haven't gone down that rabbit hole. I would say I'm kind of middle of the road. I'm not like the ultra light ounce counters that some people are. I mean, Brady that works here, a few years ago, he decided he's going to completely ditch his stove, altogether and not pack his stove at all. And he mostly just goes on what he calls a bar diet. So when he's back there hunting, he's mostly just eating, these, meal bars and, other food that he doesn't have to heat and warm up. For that, he'll probably be able to ditch about a pound and a half where he doesn't have to take the stove. But for me, I just like a hot meal at night. There's been a lot of nights when that was the best part of the whole day, was getting to warm up a warm meal and eat that. So for me, if I got to pack an extra pound for a stove to make some coffee or a hot meal at night, I'll do so. So I'm kind of middle of the road, I would say.
Yeah, I don't think I'd be able to do it without coffee, man. It's non-starter.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. What's your thought on all the stuff we kind of talk about with arrow setups, high FOC, where do you kind of fall in that category for both elk and antelope? Or are they the same? Like, what's your kind of thought on that?
Yeah, I shoot the same setup all year. I mean, in fact, I've got a Fletching jig and probably 5 arrows right here on my desk that I'm kind of working on. I shoot the same setup. I practice with it all summer. And again, I'm kind of a middle of the road guy. I like an FOC that's probably somewhere between 10 and 13%. I don't go overboard on, pushing the weight on the front end of my arrow up to like 14, 15, 16%. Finished total arrow grain weight for me, whether I'm hunting antelope or elk, is probably going to be right around that 460 to maybe 475, 480 grain range. And it just works for me, so I kind of stick with it. I like a fixed blade broadhead for elk. I've shot some antelope with an expandable and had no issues there, so I may go with that. But pretty standard, just a basic 100 grain head with a 50 grain insert, 300 spine arrow, total arrow grain weight, like I said, right around that 460, 470 grain range.
Interesting. Well, I know antelope has been on my bucket list. We don't have, unless you go up to the Panhandle here in Texas, they're kind of hard to find. So
I
it's
pay $2,000 a tag.
Yeah, $2,000 a tag, exactly. What's your, antelope specifically? What's that average, distance shot for those?
It really depends on the type of hunt you're doing. If you're spot and stock hunting, you could potentially end up with some shots that are, out there as far as you comfortably feel shooting an animal. I would say it's switched on as those animals are. I probably wouldn't push, maybe that 50, 60 yard mark, to be honest.
Okay.
Out of a blind, you can kind of dictate the situation. So for me, I don't want to be right on top of them. I want to give them enough room that they feel comfortable if I'm hunting a water hole. So, I like 30 yards, maybe. It's kind of the sweet spot for me on a blind on an antelope. And the other thing I like about hunting out of a blind on water for antelope is that, you get a chance to see them. They're a little bit more relaxed. They come in, you get a chance to let them, get a drink, get the full draw, and you get to pick your distance. So I like hunting out of a blind if I can. But yeah, I would say anywhere between, 30 yards to 60 probably.
Interesting. Last year we was driving up for our elk hunt and we stopped because there's two that were on look like some private property, but we stopped the car and I thought, God, elk hunting is easy, man. They're right here on the road. Like, what's the big deal? They just stood there and looked at us,
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tell hunting season's comes around, then they're gone.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
So on the
Interesting.
topic of antelope, where do you usually go hunting antelope? Do you hunt them there herds up there in Utah? Or you ever been to my thing is I want to go into South Dakota because the tags are cheap and they're just like everywhere out there. So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, South Dakota is an awesome opportunity. I mean, you could do over the counter for archery. I've not been out there and done South Dakota. For me, I've hunted out west, so Utah, which is they call a limited entry species, and you can only, as a resident of Utah, I can only apply for one limited entry species at a time. So I've typically applied for elk until I've drawn my tag, and then in the years where I'm in a waiting period until I can apply again for elk, I'll apply for archery antelope and draw that. So I've drawn tags in Utah. Wyoming is the best state for antelope. They've got more antelope than anywhere, and currently you can still draw permits relatively easily. Even though it's getting a little bit harder, they've had some hard winters and their herds have taken some hits. There are, some declines as far as tag numbers and antelope go up there. But I would say, really your best chances are Wyoming. Colorado's still got some opportunities. Idaho's still got some opportunities. And really what I try to do is, try to pick a state, every year that I can get an antelope tag in. So a few years ago, I was lucky enough, I drew an antelope tag in Nevada. A year ago, I drew an antelope tag in Arizona, which is like almost impossible. It's harder to draw an antelope tag in Arizona than it is an elk tag. So, just kind of bucked the system and was lucky, and I drew an antelope tag there. This year I'm looking at going back to either Wyoming or Idaho.
Are those, we had heard that they don't pattern like, whitetail do. Have you found that? Is it for a guy that's coming in from, Texas to Wyoming? Is there a trick of narrow that down, or you got to go for 7 days to figure that out?
They don't pattern in the sense that you're going to find them like in the, like the same spot every day, if you will. In my experience, what they are is pretty centralized around water, especially early season on an archery hunt. If you can find a water hole, and you see a buck near a water hole, you can pretty well make the assessment that he's not going to be too far from that water source. And then once you're targeting a single buck, it's just a matter of days in the field. Whether that's spot and stock, you just got to get chances, or if you're going to hunt a water hole, especially if he's maybe hitting multiple water holes, you may have to sit that for a bunch of days before you actually have that buck come in. But I would say your best asset in scouting for antelope, especially early season archery, is to find the water and scout those water holes, the areas around the water holes.
Okay. Interesting.
Nice. So just a question about going back to kind of the gear stuff. And this is, like I say, I've kind of started getting into looking at getting a new set of boots here. And do you use the same pair of boots for pretty much hunting anywhere, or do you go for like something a little bit lighter whenever you're doing like, flatland antelope hunting, or if you're doing versus going up into the hills and everything for elk? Do you use a different boot or use the same one all the time?
I try to mix them up. Early season archery for antelope is awful hot, and I don't need a real aggressive, heavy leather boot. So in those instances, I'm often wearing just like a lightweight trail runner, if you will, just because I'm covering country, I'm walking a lot, I'm hiking a lot, and I want something lightweight and breathable, just because it is typically hot in August when most of those antelope hunts open up. Once I move into like September, if I'm doing an archery deer or an archery elk hunt, I kind of have been, I've done both. I've done some like flexible lightweight hikers, and I've done okay. The issues you run into there is that once you kill something and you've got a lot of weight on your back, I do find that I need that added stability and support. And so I have kind of gone back to a more supportive, heavy duty, like all leather hiking hunting boot, if you will. And then, moving into late season, if I've got like a late season rifle deer hunt in Colorado or something, then I'll typically go for a same type of boot, a leather boot, but I'll maybe get some insulation in that thing. So, 200, 400 grams of insulation. So I would say if you're going to buy one boot to do everything, I would look at just like a nice uninsulated, leather hunting boot, maybe an 8-inch, kind of middle of the road, 3 flex, if you will, if you're looking at our flex scale. So relatively flexible, but still, provide some support should you kill something and get a heavy pack.
Gotcha. And I'll tell you, I know the stuff I've gotten on there. I think in the email I sent you, I just got my son some of the, is it Sawela? I don't know how you pronounce it, but for tack, yeah. And man, y'all's customer service was like on point. Yeah, I got all my questions answered, and I forgot who I was talking to. But he says, oh, you kind of a nick in your voice there, man. It sounds like you got more questions before I let you go. And I thought, man, you don't ever get that from a customer service person. So shout out to whoever answers y'all's phones out there. They were great to answer all my questions on that. So that was awesome.
Appreciate that. Yeah, that'd be either Paul or Matt, I bet. And those guys field a lot of calls, so they get to talk to a lot of people, and it's good to know that they're doing a good job in assessing people's needs and taking care of them.
Yeah, that's awesome. We talk about that all the time, about how that is something that should go into buying, and choosing a brand, or where you buy the gear that you buy is, how are they going to take care of you before, during, and after that sale? And, somebody like that, where it's like, you can call there and you trail here, like, oh yeah, it could be Parler, like, these guys, and it's just like these 2 guys that do all this, and it's not a robot on the phone or anything like that. And, like I said, that's very important. Whenever I choose a brand, I like to have that support. I've used some brands before in the past where I'm like, hey, this thing, failed on me or something like that. And some people, it's how they respond to that is very important too. It's like, hey, we totally stand behind the thing, or, hey, just go buy another pair. There's a big difference there. And whenever you're shopping for it, like at the GoHunt store, like say, having that customer service it's a big deal. So yeah,
we're all hunters. I mean, we all hunt there in the office. Every one of those guys that work in the warehouse or work in customer service, those guys hunt. The buyers, Brian Campos, Jared Pierce, I mean, those guys both hunt. We all apply in all the states. We all try to put our try to live it, do it. Walk the walk, and also talk the talk.
Yeah, that's important too. Some of the people that you kind of run into some of these shops, it gets a bit frustrating. When you're asking them questions, you can tell they're not. They're either not out there, or they've got some bullet points to talk about. So it's refreshing to talk to people that actually use the product.
Sure.
So that's great. That's great.
Yeah, I mean, our approach to even the gear that we carry in the gear shop is that we didn't want to be like a big box store and carry everything under the sun. We wanted to be really selective and really only carry things that we like and we use. So a lot of the gear that we select is, gear that I've used and liked or selected, or, other people in the office, either Brady or Neville, it's stuff that they like and use. So we don't try to carry everything under the sun either. We really try to keep a fine-tuned, procured assortment of gear.
Yeah, that's actually awesome. I didn't know that it's all procured. So you go through there and you only put the stuff in there that you've used and you really believe in. It's a tested gear, right?
Yeah. We it's an interesting process actually, because I mean we try to carry gear at different price points to an extent. We don't want to exclude people that potentially can't afford a $600 sleeping bag, if you will. We want to give the people an option that want to buy a sleeping bag, but I really do spend a lot of time going through and like looking at gear and assessing it for what it's made of. Whether it's a down sleeping bag or a sleeping pad or a backpack or even arrows. We really do try to carry stuff that we really like. We think is going to work and is going to provide value for people.
100%. So I got to ask one more thing. I watched your Alaska caribou. How was the last 3 days for you?
Yeah, it was good. It was a little boring, I mean, it's funny. I've had a bunch of people ask that, and they're like, oh, were you dying to get out? Were you nervous? Were you anxious? And I was definitely ready to get out. I'd been there for, I think, 10 days already. And so I ended up being out there, I think like 13 total. And I was definitely ready to get out when that plane when that plane flew in and he came back and he was like, "Yeah, some bad news. We can only take one of us." And I was like, "You gotta be kidding me," you know? And I said, "Well, what do you want to do?" And I said, "Let's just rock, paper, scissors for it. Whoever wins, gets out of here." So I was the loser. We just played one round and Neville won and took off. But to be honest, I've hunted a lot on my own. I'm a little bit of a loner, if you will, and I've done some 10 to 11 day solo backpack hunts where I didn't see another person. It was just me, and so I've done those types of hunts. I kind of knew what I was in for, and I just tried to keep myself busy. I went on short hikes. I hiked out to the end of the ridge one day and just sat down and watched caribou. We had to hike water up from the river that was below camp. So, every time, every day about midday, I'd walk down and get some water. My skull, I worked on that. I worked on, anything I could possibly think of, kind of worked on to occupy my time. It wasn't too bad.
They had a buddy of mine that had went up there for a trip, and I guess a storm came back in. It was their last day. They went back to their meeting point, and they heard the plane come in. They're ready to go. It was same thing. He's up there for 10 days or something. And plane came down and then took right back off again and circled around because the storm came in and left them there. And so they were boiling their moose meat and all that, and looking back on it, I was asking him, I said, "Man, what'd you think?" And he goes, "Well, at the time, it was pretty shitty."
Yeah.
We didn't know what was going to happen. Nobody knew he was out there. Our satellite phone was dead. Didn't know when he was coming back, but now he's like, it was a pretty cool experience to really just kind of go back to primitive. We got to survive somehow,
Right.
So he didn't enjoy it at the time, but looking back, he's like, it wasn't that bad now, now that I'm home and I'm safe. So
yeah. The only thing I was really kind of worried about, like I said, is I ran out of fuel. So I had the day before he picked me up, I had enough fuel that I thought I could cook. So I cut up a whole back strap and I cooked a whole back strap just because I figured if I get stuck out here, because I was checking the weather on my inReach, and it looked to me, to be honest, like I could have been there an extra 5 days because the weather was, it was supposed to stay stocked, really stocked in and rainy. So I thought I'm gonna cook this whole back strap tonight and kind of use up my fuel. So I've got cooked meat if I need it, and then I really didn't have any other food left. All I had was a power bar, like a meal replacement bar, and I had some of those energy chews, those GU energy chews, and then I had back straps. So I wasn't starving by any means, but I was like, man, I'm kind of out of fuel. It's kind of getting down to the point where I'm not having as much fun as I used to. And I was glad. I was glad when he showed up to pick me up. I will say the one thought I kept having, and I have this a lot when I'm hunting, and things get hard, is I always think, probably 4 or 5 days from now when I get out of here, I'm going to be sitting in front of my computer at my desk working. And, I'm fortunate. I'm out here on the landscape. I got caribou all around me. I got grizzly bears I can watch. It could be worse. I could be at my computer working.
Exactly. I could never do one of those desk jobs where I'm just there at the desk all the time, man.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I know we had a storm come in last year. I'm sure like everybody else during hunting season, and we're in August and it's snowing, and of course, snow, unfortunately, didn't prepare for anything winter, opening archery, and storm came in and started snowing, and these little trees were falling around our tent. We thought, this is how we're going to die. We're literally going to be sleeping and a tree's going to fall on us, like this is crazy.
I've been there, man.
We're 7 men. We are not going back. We're in it to win it, So
yeah,
it was a great experience.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's those.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, sometimes it's those experiences though that are really the most formative for you, and it's like that's where you really learn a lot of the lessons that you take forward. Because I did that one time and went hiking with my brother-in-law in Smoky Mountains, and we did like 25.5 miles over like 2.5-3 days or something. And it was just like so brutal to the point where I was carrying, I think, about 45, 55 pounds on my back. And like, it got to the point where there's sometimes where I had so little gas in the tank that I couldn't even stand up. I had to get them to pick me up to get off of my legs, and my legs weren't to give out. And it's like, now I learned so many lessons from that trip. It's like I'm already know where to start or where not to fall, on the next time I go out and do something like that, or if I'm going out to do a,
Sure.
elk hunt out there, I know where I failed. But then, like I say, I look back on that where I thought, like you said, Dean, like, oh man, I might die here. I looked back on that, having hypothermia there at the top of the mountain, thinking like, okay, I'm going to die in my sleeping bag tonight, and it's like you learn so many lessons. But then I look back upon that with so much like, I just love that moment, because it's like I've never been in that situation. You rarely get in that situation where you're that low, and it makes you feel a lot better about everything else too.
Yeah, and the fact that you didn't die, that you handled it, right? That like you dealt with it. Did it suck at the time? Sure, but then you get back to civilization, you get a hot shower, you get a hot meal, and you look back on it and you're like, I can do this. Like, I can do hard things. And I think about those types of experiences a lot. I mean, I don't know. I think maybe it's Cameron Haynes that has said before that, like, as bad as things suck, they can be really, really bad. He's never more than maybe 10 hours from a cold Mountain Dew, right? Which is true. I mean, no matter how bad it gets, you kind of learn to deal with it, and that you can get through it. And next time you put yourself into that situation, you're that much farther ahead mentally, because you've done it before. You know that you can handle it.
Absolutely, man. And like I say, like, it just makes you feel better about it. And it's just like, when it almost leaves you wanting more adventure after that, and so it's like, okay, where's the next spot, where we're going from here. So, and it's ultimate growth.
I was going to say, I was on a late season elk hunt one time, archery elk hunt in Arizona. And I was, bivvied out down in the canyon. I was kind of up on this little knoll in the middle of the night. I had just massive windstorm. I mean, just howling. And I had a great big dead Doug fir come down about 40 feet from my bivvy in the middle of the night. And I mean, that thing just shook. I mean, it shook the ground. And I took everything, threw it in my backpack, and hiked out. I mean, I hiked probably 2.5 miles, 3 o'clock in the morning, up to the top of the ridge to where I felt like I was in a better spot. But stuff like that can happen. It's scary.
Oh man, I'm just shitting bricks after that, I bet.
Actually, I killed a bull the next morning. It was kind of interesting. I got up in the next morning and I was like, man, the wind was just blowing. I thought, well, if there's going to be any bulls, they're going to be down this canyon bottom. So I peeled off and glassed down into the bottom, and right down in the bottom, tucked in, there was a nice 6-point bull, and I had the wind blowing right. I mean, right as good as it could possibly be as far as direction goes. I mean, it was just howling. I thought, this is the easiest stalk I'll ever make in my life. I did. I essentially walked up to that bull. It was great.
Poke him with the arrow.
I shot him at 34 yards. And it was, wind was blowing so loud that I had plenty of cover sound, and he couldn't have smelled me because it was blowing from him to me. It worked out pretty good.
Nice. Well, man, Trail, thanks for coming on, man. I think I appreciate it. Like I say, we're just trying to the ultimate goal of this podcast is really to start out just like for people that are new to this, for people that are don't have all their money to dump into gear and stuff like that. I really appreciate your perspective on that, because you're the gear guy. You test all this stuff, you use this stuff in the field, and like you say, that's really awesome, man. And I'm definitely going to be downloading GoHunt here into, actually I've already got it on my phone. I need to start using that as a mapping app though, because like I said, it's number one. So as soon as y'all released it about 6-7 months ago, it was like, that was immediately people were telling me like, hey man, you got to try this. You got to try this. You got to try this. So yeah, that'd be great, man. So thanks for going on. Any way you want to shout out, like social media or anything like that, where you people can reach out to you?
Yeah, you can follow me on I'm on Instagram. Just Trail K11 is my handle. I'm not super active. I'm active enough, but not super active on Instagram. If you guys got questions, you can DM me there. You can reach out to me. Just trail@gohunt.com is my email address. If you got gear questions or questions about GoHunt and how that platform works. if you are an insider and you want to know how to get the most out of your platform and your membership, I would never hesitate to reach out. We're more than happy to help people out. And, really, I work here for a living, for a job, provide, but really I do get a ton of personal satisfaction just helping people, getting started into hunting. And I know that the hurdle is high, getting into Western big game hunting, especially if you've never hunted before out west, or if you've never hunted at all. So I fully realize how, complex and how intimidating that can be. But, I would say just do it. All the resources are there for you. We're more than happy to answer questions for you. The membership is really handy to help you get into, Western big game hunting, and just do it. It's definitely more feasible than you think.
Yeah, that's awesome. And like I say, I really appreciate you demystifying that process for people, because this is the only way that we're going to really grow the sport of hunting, and it's like I picked it up from my grandfather and everything, and that's kind of like it's like his legacy to me. And so it's like, I want to do is pass that on to people. And that's why I started this channel, is I just want to reach more people and, kind of make the inaccessible accessible. And, I'd never pitch this channel as like, hey, I'm an expert, follow me. But it's like, hey, I'm learning, watch me succeed, watch me fail. And let's use that, to better ourselves. So
for sure.
Yeah. Well, thanks a lot for being on, everybody. Go follow Trail Kreitzer there. And like I say, follow us and like this video, give the thumbs up and subscribe to the channel if you're not. And thanks for watching, guys. And as always, keep defying the odds.
Thanks for having me.